PR nightmare. And I think that they're going to come up with a different business model. It's probably going to be them trying to get in on the touring aspects way more, because you can still make money off of people touring, right? They can still do that. And traditionally, the artist loses money on the first 3 tours. Not really, but that's how they do it. No matter how much money you make, you're a new artist. You don't know anything about this. You've never done this before. You have no point of reference. So these poor guys come in and they say, well, you did 9 million in sales. And you go, oh my God, yes. And it cost us 11 to get this thing off the ground. So you're 2 million in the hole. On the bright side, you can make that up on a 4 record deal that we're going to do. You know how many rappers are out there literally broke? Guys that were cranking and doing work and doing all this stuff. When you hear people come out, I used to get really offended when I would hear stars or athletes come out and say, professional sports is the modern version of slavery. And I'd go, what the hell are these guys talking about? Or rock stars, it's the modern slavery. It is. As stupid as it sounds, the first time I heard people talk like this, what they're doing to these people to keep them successful is hell, right? You want to be successful? You're literally going to, I'm gonna make you do something that is going to make you so uncomfortable, because that's the get down, right? It's not about the the SEX. It's not about any of that. It's even the control. What it's about is making someone do something that they don't want to do, because it's a humiliation ritual at every turn. It's humiliation. It's humiliation. It's humiliation. I think as a society, we're done with it. I really do. Worldwide, I think we are done with this. I did a show the other night where I called it The Boat Has Hit the Iceberg, right? I was talking about Hollywood, and somebody said, who's the iceberg? And I said, we are, right? For the first time ever, we really are. If there's a lot of people that don't know what I do for a living. I live in a weird town, but if somebody ever asks me about it, I say, well, I'm in news these days, I'll say, because it's easier than telling someone you're on YouTube. And I was talking to somebody about Diddy, and this was not someone who's ever stepped foot on the big red button. He's an elderly guy, but he knew enough about this. And he said to me, boy, Hollywood's just going to burn to the ground, isn't it? This was a guy who was like in his mid-70s. And I thought, if this is this guy's take on this, how much of the rest of the world is thinking the exact same thing? We're tired of this crap. We're tired of people getting up on stage, accepting an award, and lecturing us about how we're bad people, right? We don't follow the right cause, and we're not trying to save the spotted owl and all this stuff. And while this is going on, right, now we know what they're doing behind the scenes, right? Literally 25 minutes after this awards ceremony, what they're doing with 13-year-old girls. And I think as a society and as a world, we're a little sick of it.
Yeah, so this question ties into the last question, and I have been emailing Professor Hamamoto ever since this story broke to get him back on to answer this question and to elaborate. Well, perhaps my emails have been going to his junk, because usually he gets back to me quite fast. So Professor Hamamoto, if you're watching, check your junk folder, or if you've gone on holiday, enjoy. Or if you are a viewer of Professor Hamamoto's channel, get in the comments and tell him Atwood's trying to get you on. Please respond to him so we can get him on, because I think it's very pertinent with this story breaking. This is his lifetime's work. But let's see what Tommy has got to say. Is this how rap finally dies?
It's interesting, isn't it? I think it's in deep trouble. I really do. And I think it's in deep trouble for a couple of reasons that we probably don't think about very often. But as I said earlier, the real money is going to be in touring. You have a much better shot of making a lot of money touring, because you own whatever happens. You show up that night, you do your show, it's your money. You want to sell some merch, you can do this, right? And people like Taylor Swift have literally taken over all aspects of it, right? That woman designs her own shows, she books everything. She's really okay, but rap isn't like what Taylor Swift does. I don't know if you've ever been to a rap concert. It is very different than other concerts, because you don't have a group of people, playing instruments and doing all of these things. It is a very different kind of music, and it doesn't lend itself to live, concert style like other music does, where people can just sort of riff off each other on instruments. It's like the exact opposite of the Grateful Dead. They could go out there and play one song for 4.5 hours because it was just musicians. This is just people kind of yelling. And the concerts are not, they don't sell out as well as a lot of the other ones, because it's just different. This is going to, if it doesn't kill it, it's sure as hell going to change the crap out of it. It's not going to survive in the form it is in now. I just don't think it can, especially now that we know that it has been a business model out of their own mouth. It's been a business model to not recruit talent, right? God forbid you get someone who's talented. Don't get an Eminem. Don't get somebody that can write their own lyrics, that can write their own beats, or do any of these things. You want to pay someone to write the lyrics. You want to pay someone to write the beats. You want to use the auto tune. And then if that guy makes $100 million, you can keep 90 of it, maybe 95, and he's going to be stoked, right? Because he's not talented, or she's not. And I'm not being disrespectful. These are their words. I want anybody with talent. I can make anybody a star, right? It's pretty disgusting. I agree, Harley, by the way. Rappers do spend a lot of time in subject matter that really bums people out. And I think that you might put up with it if you're just tapping your foot, right? All that hose and this and that. But then when you find out what's going on behind the scenes, these lyrics start to get real misogynistic, and it starts to get something that's a little harder to listen to when you know about the raw egg trick, right? Or you know about the after parties or any of that stuff.
And new generations always come up with things that overthrow the old. So that will play out eventually. All right. So Gordon Jackson, I'll just give a preamble to your question. When I was ruminating on a catchy title for this video, and I posted, "Will Jay-Z end up in prison with Diddy?" After I'd posted it, it occurred to me that because of various laws and states and jurisdictions, that there's something implied here that might never happen. And Gordon is calling this out. Will the Zizzler end up at the same jail as the Diddler?
Here's the crazy thing. It could. Now, if by some chance he is charged with the R word, right? That is a state crime. It will not be a federal offense. So he would be brought to Rikers Island, right, where he could bail out. And no, in fact, he wouldn't even have to bail out. I don't remember what the laws are there, but they got a very different law now on bail in New York, right? But this is one of those really kind of bizarre situations. He would need to pick up a federal offense, but that's very possible, right? That's very possible. Allegedly, there's a case out there about him putting an underage girl on an airplane and flying her from an island, right, to the U.S., where he allegedly then essayed the girl. That would be a federal offense, right? If any of these people got brought across state lines, then this can become a federal offense. I think that, and if it was, he's going straight to MDC Brooklyn. And he's famous as all get out, right? So I don't care how hella hard you are. They're not putting you in general population if you're that well known. Because even if you can take care of yourself, they don't want you to have to, right? That's paperwork. And God forbid somebody this famous, right, gets stabbed or gets killed. They're never going to live it down. He would go immediately to that PC unit, I promise. And they don't, that high level PC unit where you put people like Sam Bankman-Fried and P. Diddy, I promise you there's not 9 of those, right? That's one little unit. And yeah, there's a chance he could end up in one, man. Yeah, he would be in PC for sure.
So, Tommy, if a criminal indictment comes down, you're saying that they would get him wherever he's domiciled. He'd probably go to the local jail, and then the feds would pick him up and transport him to this, possibly to the same jurisdiction as Diddy. Is that what you're saying? Yeah,
what I'm saying is that currently we know of a 13-year-old girl who's alleged that this happened after the VMAs. That's a state crime. R-wording someone is a state crime. Essaying someone is a state crime. The reason that Diddy's looking at federal time is because of the RICO statute and because of the fact that he was flying people right in from other places. When someone crosses the state line during a commission of a felony, it becomes a federal offense. I don't think anything currently that Jay-Z is facing, and I don't know the whole thing. What we know of right now is this allegation from the girl who ended up, she lives in Alabama now. She was 13 at the time. This was the VMA. That would be a state crime. It's an assault charge. As ugly as it sounds, when you hear the details and all that, it is an assault charge at this point. For it to rise to the level of a federal offense, we're going to have to cross some state lines, or they're going to have to say this This was another, so what does he call it? Rockefeller or whatever. This is another crime organization with another Shaun sitting at the top of it. I don't see them RICOing him, and maybe I don't know enough about it, but Nina says any case can be turned into here's the thing with the feds. Yes and no. It depends on what it is. Some of it's cut and dry. If you happen to be selling chemicals, right, that people use to catch a buzz, it comes down to weight. How much weight is there? If that weight threshold is too low, it's not going to be a federal offense. In a lot of things, it's cut and dry. What they're doing, are they bringing them across state lines? Okay, that's going to be a federal offense. So there's a lot of area that he could end up picking up a Fed case in this. However, what the allegations are currently, that's a state crime. He would go to Rikers.
All right, so let's go over where he would end up then if it's a state crime. So he would be picked up. Does he live in California?
Well, this took place in New York. So this crime took place in the southern part of New York. So allegedly, right? Allegedly, this happened at a party after the VMAs, allegedly in New York. That's my understanding. So that's where this would have to go. No, I don't know where he lives. Did he file his lawsuit from California?
Well, they've got the most expensive mansion, haven't they, ever in California?
It's got
where does Jay-Z live? The mansion in California, 34,000 square foot in Bella, posh enclave.
34,000 square feet.
Yeah,
nothing.
200 million mega mansion. So he would go to LA. He would go
2,600 here myself.
He would go to LA County Jail to await.
He would go. Yeah. Well, they would instantly extra. I mean, a person of his stature, but because this isn't going to be federal, what would happen to him would be just what did expected to happen to him. Right when they arrest Shaun Carter, it's going to be he is going to be in and out so fast that he won't even have a smudge on the thumbs from the from the thumb printing.
So can you
imagine talking to Shaun?
Can you imagine Jay-Z in Rikers then?
I've been to Rikers. Rikers is a ugly, ugly, ugly facility, bro. It is an ugly, old, disgusting facility, and it's dangerous. And 18,000 people, man. 18,000 people in a county jail. That's rugged. That is way too many people. But yeah, he wouldn't be there long. New York has a thing about bail anyway. They did this bail reform law, so he'd be out. Yeah, Rikers is hell on earth. It really is. It's nasty.
Because wasn't the story of Khalif Browder wasn't that set in Rikers?
There are so many unbelievable stories to have come out of Rikers Island. The songs about Rikers Island and the lore. It's been around a really long time, and it famously, everywhere in New York, but famously, you can get, anything on earth that you want to catch a buzz on, you could get in there. This is so it's an interesting place to be at, isn't it? Because we spend all of this time researching and we spend all this time talking and looking at all of the different things, and then when it happens, you realize about day two, hey, there's a lot of angles we blew on this, isn't there? There's a lot that we didn't think about. Do I think the NYPD is investigating his case? I do. I absolutely do. This, once again, it gets really, in the U.S., it's so strange because of how we've broken up our legal system, but it's going to have to be, right? It really is going to have to be. As much as the feds are already involved and they're already doing this, is it a federal crime? Because if it's not, they're not going to be handling all of this. And I don't see the federal law broken in this, unless, of course, what is alleged about him flying a girl from an island, right, to New York to meet him. That would be a real issue.
So
please remind me of there were a couple of really horrific things that came out. Khalif, that's not the guy that with the
back. They said he stole the backpack, and he didn't steal the backpack, and
okay, yeah.
He refused to sign the plea bargain. I'm just going to pull it up now. Khalif,
Yeah.
the story of the Khalif Browder story. It's absolutely heartbreaking. He's just a young man from the Bronx, and he's held at Rikers Island jail. And what happens to him in there is horrific. And I'd urge people to go on Netflix and watch the Khalif Browder story if they want.
And then there was Abner Louima. Maybe saying that wrong, but there was another horrific case where I believe his name was Abner something or other, Louima or Lorima. But this guy he was a frequent flyer. He'd been in there a bunch of times, and they tend to lose respect and everything else. But he was drunk. He was bothering him, and they violated him with a plunger. And after doing it, they then tried to shove it, knocked all his front teeth out. On the bright side, he got paid. Like he really got paid, and it was a very big thing in New York. And they fired a bunch of officers, but it's a bad place. Size, you've done a lot of time. If you're in a prison that's got 400 people in it, it's not like being in a prison that's got 4,000, right? The more people you shoehorn in, the uglier it gets. And when I was there were 18,000. I don't know what it's got to be at 20 or 25 by now, because I was there decades ago. But it's a very, I remember going in and I was in a holding cell, like waiting to go through the process of being booked in, and they call people out one at a time or whatever. But there was about 70 of us in a holding cell, and there was not a bed. There was not a bench. There's just 70 dudes in there, like leaning on corners, sitting down. That guy walked up and was like, "Hey man, I want your shoes." Right. And I'm not small, man. Like I'm a big dude. I thought, oh crap, man. And you can't give them to them, because then who knows what they'll want next. But yeah, I wasn't a fan of Rikers at all. I don't think Jay's going to like it much either.
So this is interesting because...
Thank you, Danny. That's what it was. I'm sorry. Abner. Yeah, Louima. Thank you.
Sarah wants to know if Jay-Z could give stuff on Diddy to get out of this if this case moves forward.
I guess it depends on what he's got on him. Yeah, I think the feds would be happy to get any kind of help they could, and the bigger the name, the happier they would be. The feds live to turn people, right? They live for this. That's what they want more than anything. Yeah, they would give him a shot at it. I think that with the amount of money that they have, that becomes an issue. It's hard working with somebody that's got that much cash, because obviously he's going to have a bulletproof legal team.
Yeah, and I put this to Lionel, the ex-prosecutor, last night. What about if they flip the person B against Jay-Z and Diddy and give person B immunity?
I should have said this earlier, because you actually asked this question, or someone asked the question about where do we think B is, and I said, there's like 3 places B could be. I think I skipped one of them, and one of the places that B might be, one is dead, right? One could be that the person is just sort of hanging or whatever, and then the last one is that this person could be sitting in protective custody waiting to go to trial. That's a reality. It very well could be one of those situations where this person has already said, yeah, I will do this. And yeah. By the way, somebody said there's no way that Jay-Z will ever snitch. He's the credibility and this and that. I got news for you. That stuff goes out the window so fast, you got no idea. You want to send me some hate mail? I'll let you. You want one real quick? All right. Allegedly, he's a rapper by the name of T.I. You guys know who he is, right? Okay. He went to a camp. The charges he had, same charges I had. I went away for almost 13 years. The difference between my case and his, right? He had fully autos, right? One fully auto will get you 25 years to life in the U.S., right? This guy, there are a lot of people who are supposed to be all hella hard who turn really quick. How about Tekashi 6ix9ine? How about his street cred? And it hadn't hurt his career much, has it? Those guys are all, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but they're not hard. They pretend to be gangsters. When they get into prison, they're going to meet gangsters. It's going to be a very different time for them, because the guys in there don't sing about it, they do it.
Yeah, he snitched on the 9 Trey Bloods. He's going to be looking over his shoulder for the rest of his life.
Yep. for the rest of his life. And he's already been hit a couple of times.
Here's an interesting fact. Jay-Z and Weinstein Television teamed up to make the Khalif Browder story, a 6-part documentary series that tells the story of. So you got Harvey Weinstein and Jay-Z. Wow.
Good God, man. Yeah, that's hard to wrap your brain around, isn't it? That really hard. Yeah, I just saw a good question too. Sorry. You know, I know that it seems really odd with the snitching stuff, and you know who did you know, so and so allegedly snitch on, or whatever, T.I. rather. So here's the thing on T.I. You can look up felon in possession of a firearm or possession of a fully autoed, right, machine gun for all intents and purposes. Now look up that and find out what happens if you happen to already be a felon, and then find out that this guy went to a camp. To have those charges, you can't go to a camp. So I can't tell you who he snitched on, but I can tell you this: the federal government does not do to anybody what that cat was able to get done to him. So fortunate for him, whatever it is. It's fortunate.
All right, here's a question from D-Man. What about the victim's father? She said he picked her up at a gas station near the mansion where the after party was. If they reveal her identity, won't her father's identity come out?
What about the? Well, I mean, yeah, probably. I don't know what that would mean for her dad. My understanding is, right, she snuck out to do that night, and allegedly she did go meet her father. But yeah, at some point, all this is going to be available. I mean, it is. They can seal dockets. Right, the feds can seal dockets, and sometimes they can remain sealed, and usually that happens when someone is underage. But yeah, her dad. I don't know that her dad would get any kind of protection, but it's hard to tell.
So if it goes to a criminal case, Tommy, and there's no physical evidence, there's no police report, there's no hospital report, would a main source, and it's quite a long time ago, be the guy at the gas station who she first encountered, who allowed her to make the call to her father? Would that person be like main evidence?
Absolutely. But I think so. It's alleged that there is a paper trail of people that this person allegedly talked to or appeared to. Allegedly, she talked to a lot of people about this. They didn't do squat, right? But a lot of people heard this story back in the day. You're also, I don't think you're going to run into the same kind of problem. You get a lot of people that complain, you know, she waited this long. She was 13, peeps, right? She was 13 years old. That's a baby, right? That's not a woman. It's still a baby. And I think for a lot of these people, like I said earlier, you know, you spend the first 5 years wondering what you did wrong to make that happen. And then you spend the next 10 years, you know, wondering why, of all of the people that this rich dude had met, why me? Obviously there's something wrong with me. And about the time that these people, like the Danny Masterson trial, I went out to in New York, in LA rather. And I got very, very involved in that particular trial. And I met all of the Jane Does, heroes. I mean, just the most heroic women you'd ever want to meet. And all of them said the same thing. They were going to go to their grave content with the fact that the Church of Scientology said, you guys will just do arbitration. You know why that stopped? Because one of them found out there was another one. When that person found out that they were not the only person that had to endure this, they went, screw you, this is over. And in the process of that, they found out there's a lot more of them, and they all got together. But a lot of times these youngsters, these young women and boys blame themselves. I did something wrong. I never should have, done X, Y, or Z. And I'm not at all surprised that these people wait this long to come forward, right? The monster's dead now. The monster's locked up. The person that you thought would kill you if you ever told anybody this is locked up now. I don't know. Maybe it's me. I don't struggle with that like other people do. Why'd they wait so long? Because they were terrified. Because they were a child when it happened to them. It's statistically speaking, most are going to not tell ever anyway. Ever. This is not the normal, right? The normal is not to tell, period. Most people, sadly, because of, blaming themselves and all that. Most people are going to die without telling anybody. So I don't know. I'm not as surprised, I guess, as the next guy.
So thanks for the super chat, Maggie.